Hi there, it's Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Women on TV.tv, the worldwide TV network, formerly known as the Women's Broadcast TV Network, and iTube 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee. And we are at show number 152 in the last 19 weeks and still counting. And with all this stuff going on, I have to say, our special guest is Mike Tankel. And the reason why I like this and I wanted to do this show out of the blue is because I think we've met. I think we've been in the same circles, but I can't prove it. So Mike, for the guests and everybody, and Jessica just tuned in from Tennessee. Hello, Jess.
Hello.
Who are, where are you coming from?
Hi, Mike. Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
I'm sorry, did you say something else, Brian? Because I just.
Oh, I was just telling Mike, tell us who you are, where you're coming from.
Well, you're speaking to me. I'm out here at in the Laurel Canyon neighborhood of Los Angeles, home of all that amazing music history that we all grew up on and continue to love this day. And so it makes me excited to talk to you about a little bit of music that's going to be happening soon.
Well, first of all, I got to ask you this. I love Buddy Hackett. I love that poster that you have behind that. Buddy Hackett gave us one of the best interviews for, I can't remember what the film was, but I just remember it was over at Disney, and he was telling the stories, and he didn't want to leave. And I just remember the old-time publicist, and I can't remember her name, but she had been there for 35 years, and it was just three of us. And I'll never forget it, and I still have that interview. And it was just a joy to talk to him, because Mike, my favorite film was It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Who was in it?
One of my favorites as well. Absolutely love it.
We got to talk about that poster first. Talk about that poster. Why do you have that poster?
So that poster is part of a collection of ads that were done for the Desert Inn. And the Desert Inn on its, towards the end was not the place that was getting all the best celebrities to entertain. So the campaign idea that was come up with was having artist Robert Risco create a series of portraits. And we got all these great entertainers to come perform because they wanted Robert Risco to do a portrait of them. So they got one and the property got one.
Interesting.
So it's an ad campaign for Desert Inn. And I've got, Ray Charles, Dionne Warwick, loads of other amazing artists that went out of their way to perform there because they wanted the painting.
See, and that makes a lot of sense. And that's why I wanted my other co-host, Jessica from Tennessee, to come on, because I love the fact of the stuff that she's done. I have many nicknames for her, as she knows, but I call her Putt Putt right now. But in general,
Okay.
she would normally be performing as most people would be on a cruise ship or whatever, or, doing some play, but she's with us right now. So I'm honored to have her here. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Yeah, when I found out that I would get to talk to you today, Mike, I was very intrigued because it's, on the artist side, it's sometimes people make fun and say, well, they don't even think about the business side of things and what it actually takes behind the scenes to make something happen. Oh, it's all fine and dandy that you want to sing and perform, but how are you going to get there? So, I really appreciate you and what you do, and also am always very curious that kind of mindset, and when you see things from that perspective as opposed to the ones who are just trying to get the music out. Have you always been interested in marketing and entertainment in that area, or have you been an artist yourself, or are you an artist as well?
I've taken a bit of a journey. I don't know if I'd call myself an artist. There's a couple instruments behind me, but that's for fun. Let's just put it that way. Definitely not paying the rent on that. But I've always been in marketing and advertising, starting off in the corporate world with, big companies like AT&T. I was overseeing marketing for all their international calling plans. Became one of Cirque du Soleil's first corporate sponsors, and really cool way to think about that. We all know Cirque du Soleil, right? Well, pre-Vegas, you guys seen the shows before Vegas?
Yeah.
Not in person, unfortunately. That was still a goal of mine, and now I'm not sure how that's going to work out.
So before Vegas, what do you recall about the shows before they opened big in Vegas, Brian?
I remember seeing them in Santa Monica. Go
Okay.
Davison and Troy, the PR firm, and I loved them ever since, as early as, I want to say, maybe 99, 2003.
So that would probably be Nouvelle Experience or Saltimbanco.
Yes. Yeah.
And what I'm going to tell you that I think you'll find really interesting was during that time, it was all a made up language. There was music, there was art, there was, all the entertainment, but the language, the lyrics they were using was a made up language. So for me, overseeing these international calling plans, we're talking to multicultural consumers. For the first time, I found a property that's equal to every culture because there is no language barrier. It's 100% emotion.
Nice.
Wow. Interesting.
See.
So I
Somebody,
was
somebody's got some smarts in them.
we try to find ways to look at things through a different lens. And it's a lens that unites and leverages what's available. Great marketing is not always about, spending a lot of money to get a big celebrity. It's how do we find the right reason so it's natural, it doesn't feel like marketing. It feels like an invitation.
Yeah, and see that just goes to show the interview that we just did a little bit ago, music is my passion, it's my love, it's my life. It's end of story. Like I don't know where I would be without it. I wouldn't be me without it. And what I appreciate about it so much is that it is universal and you don't have to have the language. The music itself, the sound itself speaks to everyone and it makes you feel something. It either takes you back or it puts you in a place you've never been, regardless. And so that's why I'm a huge proponent of music in general. And I love that. I love that it wasn't even real. It wasn't even a real language. It was just something to make it sound like you're learning something new, but it's all based on the music itself, which is.
Yeah. And, this is, a lot of people didn't know about it yet. So for me, one of the favorite things was watching people's expressions who are seeing it for the first time, watching their faces.
Yeah.
And one funny story from that, this was 2003, Orange County, Saltimbanco opening night. My guest was Don Henley.
Ooh.
We're in the front row. Renee, who's the lead clown, starts goofing on Don, goofing on me, back and forth. And I guess I was a wise guy and goofed back on the clown. Next thing you know, I'm up on stage and wound up doing a 20-minute mime routine opening night that ended with a shootout at the OK Corral. And it was pretty funny. And people were like, "Oh, you made that look so natural. How long did it take you guys to rehearse that?" Like, I've never done this before in my life.
Improv, baby. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Did you see AT&T taking over Warner Brothers and Turner? Did you see that coming?
My work there was a long time ago, and I've been gone. We've seen, look, when you look at DirecTV, that acquisition was a big acquisition for AT&T, which gets you into the home, right? And requires all the telecommunication support of however you're wired through fiber or DSL to deliver it, or satellite. So the next step is if you're delivering it, what are you delivering? You might as well deliver your own product because it's going to be a little smarter that way, right? So it seems like a pretty good fit, and they just certainly announced a lot of changes this past week. There's an upheaval in the entire industry, but the one thing that I really respected was when they talked about putting the focus on the customer and how the customer consumes. Too many times in the past, it's been about the channel. Now it's about the customer. If I'm watching, whatever movie, it's the same movie to me, whether I'm seeing it in the theater, whether I'm seeing it on demand, whether I'm watching it on a streaming service, wherever it might be, it's the same brand. And for too often, studios and the entertainment world tried to change that brand depending on where and how you were seeing it. So I like that it's going to have a little more focus now. At least that's what they were talking about.
I always came out of the home video marketing aspect of things. Look where Ted Sardos is from Netflix right now. I remember kind of dealing with him, not knowing who he was then. I was running video stores, but I was also in radio and voiceovers. What I see now, because I've always said this, and I tell everybody this, if you're able to adapt to the change of things, whether it's digital marketing, communications, telecommunications, cleaning services, gaming, if you can do those things for me and environmentally friendly and sustainable, and I want to, develop something in this first test model for net zero, you'll be in good shape. If you're not able to latch onto any of those, I don't see how you're going to make it. Because AT&T's in heavy debt, but I could see what they want to do. I don't know if it'll be done because a lot of these people are, it's just it's unreliable. It's very shaky. But I always tell people, I'm glad I'm not in any debt. We're at 5.8 million views a day and counting. We're recession proof and we're stock proof. So I will take the position that we're in over all of these companies that I see.
Well, 5 million views a day and counting. I mean, that many per day is more than most of the most popular TV shows right now.
That's why you hear me say that. And I tell my host all the time. I said, Jessica, when we had John Scheinfeld on, I said, ABC had done a documentary on, it was called The Happy Days of Gary Marshall. I definitely wanted Jessica on and a couple of the other hosts. And when the publicist called me the day before, who's become a friend, hey, we just hit 5.6 million views. And I'm like, well, I get that in a day. I'm like, is this the best that they're doing? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
It goes down from there, as I'm sure you're aware. So I tell people between now and April 2nd of 2021, we will end up with 850 million views a month and counting. No one is going to be able to touch what we do for movie reviews and more. And that's one reason why when I met Jessica last year, I said, I'm going to utilize you. You just don't know. And here she's been coming on with all this stuff. And I joked because she went to one of our shows. She drove us to one of our shows in Tennessee where we have 3.7. She's the only one that's seen it. And we've only got one show up, but that one show is at 929,000 views, Jessica, right now. We will reach 1 million by between now and mid-September.
Well, I hope I don't hurt your numbers too bad.
No. I'm honored to have you on, and that's why I wanted Jessica on, because I'm intrigued by how you think. Where do you think the movie business is now? How do you see it? Because I'll tell you how I see it.
I see it as a little bit confused because you're seeing money move in, well, let's just say the movie business has never been a logical one, okay? There's a lot of ego, there's a lot of decisions made, and a lot of smart gut and a lot of sometimes not so smart gut. But I see the movement to streaming. It's here to stay. Yep. We've got amazing TVs and stereos and computers and phones and every which way to consume it. Doesn't mean the in-theater experience is gone, but I think your tent poles you're going to focus on there. At home, there's a lot more you can do. So what does that mean to a content creator? Ideally, it means that there's more opportunities for content creators than there's ever been before. And we've seen a lot of the new OTTs come up, and Disney did an absolutely amazing job with Disney Plus, but we also know that we probably are familiar with about 85% of the content they put out there. Familiarity makes it really easy for us. The hardest thing when we're scrolling through Netflix or Amazon or Hulu is like, I don't know any of these movies. What are they? How do I get to know them? And I think hopefully we'll see some evolution in UX there. And so we do become familiar with them. But I'm hoping for the content creators that there will be a look towards the independent creator and, that they're going to find more opportunities to get their artistry shown. We're seeing a little bit heavy still going to the big players. And some of that is the streamers want to attract the talent to show that they are a viable, channel for them. We saw a lot with Scorsese and The Irishman. We're seeing, some of the big deals that are happening out there. Sandler's certainly been great for Netflix. So, I'm hoping that, between all these big stars, there's still room to bring in a lot of the independents. And one of the things I actually do is work with independent filmmakers, the creators, the writers, the directors, to look at their stories through a marketing lens and help them before they go into production to expand their audience in the story that they're telling and give it more of a feel that it is, there's potential for sequels, there's potential for universe making when it's appropriate, extensions into gaming, and looking at it through that lens, because too often we get an indie filmmaker's like, I got a camera this weekend, let's go shoot. And they're not thinking about the characters. Hey, should this be male, female? What race should this be? Is this just kids, or how do we work adults in there to kind of grow an audience? And you got to look at all these factors so that the audience is maximized, because we're not just in the business of selling tickets. The streamers are in the business of reducing churn. And so you got to have stuff that keeps people coming in and watching.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people, like Jessica, I'm all about helping those independent filmmakers, because they're, when I was picking films for Hollywood Film Festival, great name, terrible name inside the US. Outside the US, people thought it was more than what it was when it wasn't. But we were getting a lot of our good films from the Beloit International Film Festival. So the team from Beloit would come in and we would pick a lot of films. And till this day, there's so many good filmmakers, so many good films that have never seen the light of day. That's always bothered me.
Right.
And Mike, I'm one of those people. I don't do that 10-minute rule. I've never done it. I didn't do it when I first started counting movies in 1992, because in 1991, I never knew how many movies I actually saw. Last year, I only saw 1,300 movies. That's down 700 from my normal. And that bothers me, because there's no way they're seeing all of this stuff now. And, I would tell Jessica, if you're on performing on a ship, how are you going to watch stuff on Amazon depending if you're getting spotty Wi-Fi,
right,
in the middle of the sea someplace, It's almost.
But you don't. You don't. Like you pretty much rely on anyone else that has acquired a series or a season or something. But as for seeing anything new, it doesn't really happen. We don't have that chance.
My frustration, Mike, on that is when I'm talking to Leonard Maltin or I'm talking to even David Sheehan, here are icons who I looked up to. They've lost whatever, but not because of their name, because they had the outlet. They don't have the outlet anymore. So I'm like, please come on my show. I want someone like a Jessica who she knows who they are, obviously, but I want a whole other audience to know who you are, where we came, and how the business has changed on things. Because as you know, you're in that business of, you got to change the way you're seeing things, because it's not looking the way it used to look 2 years ago.
Let me tell you about something we're doing that impacts the way we're seeing things and changing it. So, working in the music side of the world right now, and we've created a new venture called Livin, Livn, and nothing out there yet. This is kind of a scoop for you. All right. So
I'm all ears, Mike, please tell me more.
It's an artist-driven live experience company. And what's happened with this pandemic we're going through, we can't see concerts anymore, and we can't go be part of an audience. The artists are losing money. The venues are losing money. The audiences are kind of like, what's going on? And we've seen, everyone's jumping in. We saw a lot of, YouTube driven kinds of things, and some of it was a little overproduced. Some of it was underproduced. I kind of like the underproduced stuff because it was more real, more natural. And we started thinking, with all this technology, how do we meld the worlds to help out these artists? Because we can scale now. Instead of having a 200-person club, we can scale out to whatever the servers and the technology permits us to. So what we're doing is we got a great, amazing set of artists. Scott Page, who's toured with Pink Floyd, Toto, and, Supertramp, Steve Perkins from Jane's Addiction, Norwood Fisher from Fishbone, Kenny Olson, who was with Kid Rock, and, one of the Hendrix, just aficionados out there. Amazing core band. And these guys want to play. Artists want to get out there and play. But they need an audience. So we're like, let's figure out what we're doing. We're doing now. We're communicating through technology, right? We get to see each other. We're getting a little emotion. So we're putting video screens, video walls up in front of the artists. And the audience gets to come on through there. And different ticket levels that you can have a ticket that allows us to actually have a conversation with you in front of everybody as part of the full stream and engage with you. You get to talk to one of your favorite artists. You know, as they're between songs, they'll shout out to you, they'll talk to you. Then you've also got the chance for a super premium ticket is to kind of go backstage via Zoom and have a conversation, you know, with the artist themselves and be in the, you know, the backstage pass, so to speak.
Yeah, it's your
So
VIP pass, your virtual VIP pass. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we can bring in artists that aren't even with our guys and have them join in. We're gonna, you know, have music happening. We're gonna have little cooking segments. We're gonna have some comedy. It's almost, you know, rock and roll variety show kind of feel. Because what makes up living, you know, it's rocking, it's cooking, it's laughing, and it's thinking. All those things are what make up our brand. And what's really great is to keep the experience going more so you can have a couple friends over, whoever you're sheltering in place with, and doing all is some hyper-local boxes that can be food and drink that related to whatever we're cooking that evening, or some vendors that we want to support in the area. We're also going to have merchandise available so you can get a concert tee. You can get little, you know, maybe it's a strobe light to put up or some type of little gadget that we're going to ask everybody, open your box and let's do this together so we see it and engage. You get to feel like you're part of something, because the problem is right now we've all been absent of that. We haven't had the chance to engage with people, to scream, to let loose in a crowd. So now you're going to be able to see everything through your, you know, television or computer monitor, but also then use your phone to draw you in. And so we're working out all the technology there. We've done, you know, a couple tests there. We're going to do more of a pilot. So this is all brand new, but we've made it work. And let me tell you, seeing the look, not just on the audience's faces, but on the artists, when they saw friends of theirs out there in that audience, they got to talk to them. One of our guitar players got to see his dad and was like, "Oh man, Dad, you got to see me play out here."
Oh,
you know,
wow.
it's really
That's
touching.
great.
It's really awesome. So that's something I'm really excited about, that we're getting off the ground, and you're going to see more about it, a lot more coming up this quarter.
Oh, I love that.
That is amazing.
That's really
such
good.
a great. I was just telling, it's becoming more often. I mean, it's always been the feeling through all of this, but especially now, I'm just getting so antsy and anxious. It's great to be able to record and videotape it and go sing somewhere, but I just miss people. I really do.
Yeah.
Miss being able to communicate, to be able to wave at somebody, to wink at someone, to smile, to point, to whatever, because they know that whatever I'm singing or saying, it's for them. And you don't feel that. It's just
And
not.
to have someone smile at you.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be nice too.
Yeah. You know, we miss
absolutely.
it. We miss it. So that's something really exciting we're up to right now. And I mean, the emotion when we got everyone together and put this out there, it was just spectacular. And
Any way that we can help, Mike, I'm on board. I love that. That made me happy. And I'll tell you why, because I come from the world of drum and bugle corps. That's my number one love. And then movies come second. You know,
okay.
we would have never have thought last weekend would have been the finals in Indianapolis, Indiana, at Lucas, you know, Oil Stadium, Lucas Oil Field. And for all of these kids, you know, you're talking 75 drum corps. They travel within 2 months, 10 to 13,000 miles
Mm-hmm.
in that short period of time. It's the only time when you can see the States, and they put on a performance on a football field.
Yeah.
And have that. So some of my ages are at the ages of 9 to 86, my audience, because you can march until you're 86 in an all that almost sounds like that's something that could work in that, because they've been looking at me and I'm like, I haven't figured it out yet, but as soon as
we'd be happy to chat, because we're planning, you know, we've got a number of live performances we'll be doing that can have some audience that are socially distanced and do things. And, you know, when this thing is over, when this pandemic's over, this project is here to stay.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of, think about the bands that, spend every summer traveling. They might do 2 clubs, a night, and they'd only hold 200 people, but they're consistent and people go to them every year religiously. Now imagine getting the chance to see that band and all their fans get to come together on a platform and experience them. You know what that's like for that band to be able to get in one night, reach the audience that took them all summer to do?
Yeah.
Spectacular.
I think
Yeah.
that's brilliant.
There's artists that we haven't seen in a lot of years, and that, maybe they can still fill the stadium, maybe they can't, I don't know, pricing and all that, but might want to come on and do a song or two with us and have a conversation. And we can do that. And, when you're coming through something like this, the human mind doesn't go to the future, it goes to the past.
Yeah.
It seeks comfort, and it finds comfort in nostalgia and how we grew up and the artists that meant a lot to us, the music and the emotion and the places that it takes us to. So if we can bring that, familiarity, the same way a Disney Plus brings the familiarity and all the titles that we know on it, if we can bring that in music, we can bring in the audiences and also hopefully, reignite some artists for people, remind them of all the great joy they had with them and the energy and emotion. So it's really exciting, and to work with, just such high caliber people is phenomenal. As a wannabe, part-time, whatever musician, just hobbyist, to like be working with these people whose tours I've been to and listen to their albums thousands of times. It's kind of real, brings out the fanboy in me.
Of course. Is this project and the other ones that you've mentioned already, is it through the To Be Continued company that you have, or that is it through that, or is it through a different company?
To Be Continued is my main company right now. I had set up my own practice a couple years ago, and I found that the deeper you went in a corporation, the more removed you became from your client. And the clients I worked with, they hired the companies, but they hired me. They wanted me involved. They wanted me challenging them, pushing them, sharing things, because I don't think you get to a great place unless you have dialogue, unless both sides are listening and learning from each other and pushing each other. And so when kind of like told just to execute, get it, change things, I'm like, I want to be involved. And so I decided to do a bit more of my own practice. And I don't think I've ever been happier and more fulfilled. It's really great.
I think that's
And
great.
so the live-in idea and the project is through your company.
Well, it's a collaboration with Scott and a couple other people that are involved. So it's just us as people, right?
Joint effort. That's awesome.
But we all got to have entities to take care of all that government stuff.
And Scott is so creative. I told Scott, we've never met, as far as I know, through Metal, because we're members of Metal. And
I've been going to them too.
I always dealt with Ken Witowski because he helped for our Hollywood.
I really enjoy Metal. I enjoy it.
See, and I haven't done any of the stuff on the Saturday shows, but I keep telling Ken, we've come a long way since I first went to one of your meetings back in 2015. It was myself and our CEO, Brad Parks, at that point. I'm like, well, I love this. I remember meeting the guy from Pink's Hot Dogs, and I always wanted Pink's Hot Dogs to be one of our sponsors. One of my guys, Bruce Canales from Quest Energy Bars. I love those bars. So I always wanted them to be a part of the stuff that we're doing. And slowly but surely, they're starting to come in because, again, it's about challenging each other, as you say. I love to challenge Jessica. Jessica, you need to be on the show. You'll understand why you need to be on this show. And she always says, yes, thankfully, but I do the other woman because I want all of us to be good. Because, Mike, when the co-hosts have their own views and I see them going up, I couldn't be happier for them because, what good is 11,000 followers when you can have over 3 million views? What's the bigger number? And I have to remind the girls, oh, I want to have more followers. I'm like, the hell with the followers. It's about the views. You can unfollow someone, you can unsubscribe, and you can unlike, but you can't unview a view. They will always go up for us.
Well, look, here's the thing is we've got to look at them all as a media channel for us to amplify our stories.
Right.
I was fortunate to work on the Twilight franchise years ago, and that was one of the first times that we created a fandom, and we took it and we turned it into a media channel. We would provide them content before it went out even to the website, and we'd have a premiere on a music award show, an MTV Awards, but then we would push it right out to the fans because we wanted them sharing it and telling their friends and having that sense of pride of the cultural currency they had. And you have to look at your fandom as your media channel, and you learn so much from them too. So it's really powerful.
Mike, if you were to describe what your title is, where would you start? Because you have so much interesting things there.
I'm a listener, and I've actually been written up in some books on it. I use a process of extreme listening to kind of help people bring clarity to their own stories. And that clarity comes creatively, strategically, marketing wise. How do we pull it together? We all get so close to the things we're doing, and corporations, films, that we forget how to see it in others' perspectives.
Right.
And so what I try to do is bring that outsider's perspective. And again, as I mentioned, so that it expands audience, it enhances the value of the product, and it makes it easier to share. You get those things together, you can turn your product into, far bigger success.
Well, I was gonna ask you, which is kind of piggyback off of that. There are so many people who have great ideas, like entrepreneurial ideas that they would love to make go further, but there's so many things to think of. It's a plethora of facets that you have to consider, let alone the finances. So for somebody who really wants to do something or is very interested, what would be your words of advice or words of encouragement? What could you say to them to kind of give them that push to go, you can do this. This is, and here's how, or not like a how to, but what would you suggest, or what would you say?
Well, I think that the best thing is to believe, right? If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. And it doesn't mean you're going to be right. And it doesn't mean you don't take any critiques and learnings from other people. Because I was just having this conversation the other night, and it's with a friend of mine, and it's not about being focused on your end result. It's being focused on the journey.
Mm-hmm.
If Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz was focused on the end result, she wouldn't have picked up her little friends along the way and actually made it home. Right? She'd probably still be trapped in Oz somewhere. But because she found these friends and she took part in the journey, she was able to get back home and achieve her goal. And that is, for many people, you don't have to do it alone, but you got to know who to trust, and you got to open your circle, and people aren't coming to you. You got to be out there. You got to be willing to talk, willing to say hello, and share. And you'd be surprising the number of wonderful people that are out there that want to see other folks succeed and grow and participate with it. But there's also the realities that, many times you got to be connected to the money somehow to make it happen. And, the cynic in me has seen more stuff happen by people just being close to money and not caring about the idea, but because they're close to money, they're able to make money, as opposed to some the good ideas. And I still believe in the value of a good idea, a great idea, and being able to get that to market. Sometimes it's a little more challenging or takes a little longer, but the sense of accomplishment and pride in it, that you've created something that's not just a transaction, but that's got a soul to it, is the reward. And I think you always look at money as a reward, not a goal.
Right. Yeah. And it's the knowledge that you acquire that whole time that you're going to learn something new every day, whether you want to learn it or not. You'll figure it out.
Yeah. And the human capital, the relationships.
Yeah.
If we think about the people that have influenced us, how did we meet them? Who connected us? Where did that go? And who have we connected them to? That's the cool stuff. That's the network. That's the company we keep.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Oh,
give
well,
you
thank
social
you.
media. Oh, go ahead, Jess. You gonna say something?
Oh no, I just said thank you. Food for thought, viewers.
And I'm looking at it this way: when you learn to listen, you listen to learn, because you've got such great information there. And if you pick through it and you're listening closely, you have that track record of success there for people who are listening and watching. And it's there. It's just
Yeah.
about what you just said. I couldn't have said it any better. I totally 100% agree with exactly what you said, word for word.
Thank you.
Well, the reason for that, I've always been that small outlet. I didn't want to be in line with a big, huge network because I kind of knew what was going to come. And I saw a lot of my friends who were worked at like CNN for 20 years, and they didn't keep the content because they weren't allowed to. And I said, well, that you've done all these interviews and I have to fight to get this. I'm keeping the content.
Right.
And that never made sense to me. And then I would watch from the publicists at Warner Brothers, and they would invite the bigger syndicated outlets. And I was never syndicated, but I had to fight to get in. But it was the publicists that liked me. I don't know why they liked me or what they saw. Maybe they saw something I hadn't seen at that point yet. But I always knew I was just going to outlast all of them, and I have. And so I always tell people this, and Jessica kind of knows a little bit. I said, look at the girls. They all come with their own brand, and they're all very smart and all that stuff. It's not how they look, it's what they have in their head. Let me do my thing. Just pretend I'm the Wizard of Oz behind the green curtain, and I can get all this stuff done. And that's what I say. That's just leave me alone. Let me get the stuff done, and tell me what you think, and then we can go back and forth and have a great dialogue.
Yeah, look, I'm going to typically be the quiet guy in the room. I might have my drink. I might be, chilling back there, but I'm listening to everything and I'm trying to draw it in. So when you ask me a question or you talk to me or it turns into, something business, I might not use a lot of words, but the words I choose to use are going to have impact on you. And that's part of my thing. I can't just talk for the sake of talking. I'm a boring guest that way.
All right, Mike.
That's not boring at all. It doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Mike, give me social media links for everybody.
You can find me on LinkedIn, and I don't know, it's under my name. Facebook, a little bit of Twitter here and there, a little bit of Instagram. I'm mostly LinkedIn and Facebook.
And Jessica?
Jessica Heim 7 on Instagram, and Jessica Heim first and last name on Facebook.
And tell Mike a little bit of what you've done when you're not on a cruise ship.
What have I not done?
Where are you cruising to when you're cruising?
Everywhere. The last contract that I was on was primarily in Asia, and we were actually out of a Chinese port, but we went to Japanese ports during the cruise. So our home port was in China, but then
some other Zoom, we can talk much more about adventures in Hong Kong, Macau, and Shanghai.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hong Kong was also another home port that we did when we changed our other destinations.
Love it.
Yeah, but that year was Asia, but also Australia, and then another time it was Alaska, another time it was the Caribbean. So I've been very blessed to have seen as much as I have, but there's still many more on my list. We've got more on the checklist that I haven't. I believe that it will happen one day.
Every time I was over there, I'd run into somebody I hadn't seen for months out here, years, and I just happened to bump into them like in the middle of Asia somewhere. And I love when that happens.
That's kind of how it works. There's so many people that I've met. I'm from Tennessee originally, and there were people that I would meet on a contract on a cruise ship on the other side of the world, and they were from less than an hour from where I grew up. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. And I never knew who they were until we performed together. So, that's amazing. Yeah.
Mike, we're going to have to do a part 2 with you. Can we do a part 2 with you at a later date?
Absolutely. I'd love to.
Because I want to bring on 2 of the other girls, Katerina Kazayas and Sherry Nelson. Katerina's, she's going to Greece Monday, but Sherry's out of British Columbia. She couldn't do this show. She had to do something else. But I definitely want you to meet them and vice versa. I want you to meet the rest of the team, and I want you to see what we're putting together. And then slowly but surely, I'm going to bring some of the metal people in, but also with Scott, because I love what he has with his think and all that. So with that, this is Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More. So for Mike Tankel, Jessica Heim, if you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. And we will see you next week.